Hello, my delicious co-creators. Lilou here in beautiful Paris at a cinema, groovy cinema called Anthropo in the center of Paris, where you're doing a screening tonight. You're the producer of this beautiful, beautiful movie that you've recorded. It's basically the journey of your family throughout the world, exploring, what the wisdom. I mean, you went to meet wisdom keepers, medicine man, medicine woman around the world, and you recorded all that and made this movie. It's quite an adventure you went on, huh? You must be excited to see it now airing and after all this work.
Absolutely, it's we didn't start out to make a film. It was 10 years ago that we decided, my wife and I, to break away from society as we know it. Uh-huh. We felt that we needed to break away in order to get a real perspective on life. And so we went just off the grid and took our children out of school. They were very small then, 2, 4, and 7. And we thought, this is a great opportunity to do something like this when they're still that young. And we went away without a plan. So the movie actually happened as we were on our journey.
It's called Down to Earth, Les Gardiens de la Terre in French. You're a Dutch couple, and you traveled. You were already quite international, and your kids grew up discovering this wisdom, being part of it. You lived in the woods before taking on this journey, and there was this meeting that really struck you from this guy called Nowantan, is it?
Yeah. Yeah. So when we left everything behind, we had been looking for a few years to see how could we, live a connected life in nature. And when we stopped looking, it found us. And, I was, by chance, as it goes, introduced to a clan of Native Americans. And when I visited them for the first time, I knew I had so much to learn from them. And came back home, and Renata said, if you're so inspired, we better check this out. And we went.
It was obvious.
Well, she looked in my eyes and she said, something has changed with you. And she was, I think, the driving force behind the departure from our structured, organized, civilized world. So when she saw that happened with me, she thought, this is the moment that I just have to give him a little push and then we go. We sold everything. We sold our house, business, and we broke with all of that. And so,
without having a plan, because this is one of the interesting things in the movie, and we'll talk more about all the lessons and everything that you discovered. But one of them is definitely in this new world paradigm kind of thing, is like not really having a plan. And you went on this journey not knowing how you were going to meet these wisdom keepers, right?
Yeah, and we didn't go away to meet the wisdom keepers. We just went away to actually live a simple life in nature, away from all the conditioning and the conditioned mindset that we have in our world here today. And it was that, only after 3 years living in the woods, which was fantastic by itself. I mean, we met Nowatan. Nowatan was sort of the teacher of all the Native Americans that we knew in that area. But he lived a secluded life back in the woods. And we had heard many stories about him, and he seemed like this mystical or mythical almost figure. And when we were invited, it was like, wow, you had to be invited to meet him. And that meeting, I think, changed our perspective on a lot of aspects of life. And
the man who listen. L'homme qui écoute.
Yeah, l'homme qui écoute. That's the literal translation of Nowatan. It's the most humble man I've ever met in my life as well. There was no big charade around him. He was a very simple man, as he said himself. But as soon as you came into his circle, you could feel that man was just totally at ease and connected with the world. You could shoot a rocket off next to his chair, and he would just still sit there. That kind of a deep connection and faith in all that is. And it was shortly after our meeting with him that we got this vision, like, my God, if somebody like this lives here and has all this wisdom, not because of the books he's read or, the internet studies or universities he's visited, but from living with nature, there must be people like him all around the world. That was the vision. What would happen if you would start meeting these people and listen to their stories. Yeah. What story would they tell? And that's basically the premise of our film.
Yeah, there's really, we see you going throughout 6 different continents and traveling during those 5 years, but you every time it's like, it seems like it's one voice. Like, it's like this whole story, we hear him many times throughout the movie, and they pretty much have all the same message, right? So what do you feel they connect to? Where do they get that message? They get it from nature, but that means there is this one universal wisdom that we're all interconnected to? How do you see that?
You say it. I mean, I think what I realized throughout meeting these people is that, there's so little that we only do know. And that there's so much to explore. And these people are sort of like a doorway to that universal wisdom. But you're right. I mean, the biggest thing that we got out of this is that they are like one person. We would leave the Andes and go to the outback of Australia, and we would just continue like the same conversation with Aboriginal woman there that we had with this Kiro in the mountains of Peru, and it was all like that. And when we came back after the journey, and we went back to Nahuatl, we put the pictures of the people on his desk. And the joy on his face to recognize the people that he had seen in his dreams. And, it was just amazing how he had been with us all along the journey. And the stories he had to share, we had to share, it was the happiest moment, I think, that I've experienced with him. And 2 months later, he passed. Yeah. And that was, in itself, I think, part of the whole experience. He was ready. He was ready to go. There was something about him that he wanted to know how all these people in all these different continents would look at the things that he looked at. And as you see in the film, we interviewed Nahuatl before we took off on this year journey. Sometimes he says literally the same things and tells the same stories as these people do at the other side of the world. And they don't even know about each other. How does that happen? These people sometimes were interviewed for the first time. Like you really wanted to. You went out of those beaten path, right? I mean, this is not really easy task. You must have faith and trust the process that you will be guided. Were you more and more guided, or was it something you were already on this journey? I guess when you started. Well, I think without the preparation, I call it preparation, the 4 years in the woods with the Native Americans. I don't think we would have been able to do this the way we done it. Yeah. Because it was all one chain of synchronicity. But again, the beginning of the journey was difficult. We traveled with 3 little children who had their own needs, and we had to get into the groove of traveling as a family. We had like 7 backpacks, and that was it. A year around the world, 2 backpacks with cameras, and then a backpack with school stuff, and a backpack with medicine and stuff. We had no production crew whatsoever. So to get in that rhythm and into the flow, that took us at least 2 months. And in the first 2 months, there have been twice a moment where we thought, maybe it's not a good idea. We don't want to push our children through this. Yeah. My son wanted to go back home in the first weeks and didn't eat, and it was not always easy. But once we actually started to let go of what we wanted, that's when we started to meet the right people, and from one thing came another. And so for me, the journey itself is just one big lesson in faith and how life can unfold. Because you can't go to earthkeepers.com to find these people. These people have no profile on the internet. So we were totally dependent on people bringing us in touch with those people who live basically a secluded life away under the radar of our modern world. How did you know sometimes you had to push through, or to go be persistent, or to just let go? Because sometimes when we have a vision, we can be obsessed by it, but at the same time, we must have faith. Yeah, that's a big one, because I find that balance the most interesting one in life in general. But during this journey, that was tested severely. I remember that, we had heard about one woman particularly in Australia, a medicine woman, Aboriginal medicine woman, who lives still on a remote island of the north coast. And you can't visit the island. It's Aboriginal territory, and there's no foreigners allowed there. But once a year, she comes off the island to do a lecture at the University of Melbourne. And we had planned our trip so that we would meet her in Melbourne when she was going to come off the island. And when we arrived in Australia, we talked to the gatekeeper, the person who could bring in contact with her. And she said, sorry, she can't come. You know, she has to look after her family on the island. Somebody's ill. She's not coming this year. And, you know, we were like, shoot, you know, we came here all the way and we planned our trip around this event. This was one of our highlights beforehand. And our expectation was that we were going to meet her. And, you know, I said, sorry, but, you know, even if we can't film her, can we please go to the island and meet her? And she said, you know, I know the answer, but I said, please, can you ask her? You know, this is a request. We just want to meet her. We come all the way. And the next day she calls back. She can't believe it. She said, yes, when I told you that you are a family traveling with children. And so we had to talk to the Aboriginal authorities. And they said, you can only go there for 2 days, or 2 nights, 3 days. You have to bring all your gear and food and everything. They can't look after you on the island. There's nothing there. And, you know, so we were super excited. And we came there. And it was like meeting old family. And she said, after 1 day, she said, you can stay as long as you like. And we stayed.
You end up spending 2 months.
2 months.
How cool.
It was, and this is the thing, you know, like you say, you know, do you let go in the moment and say, okay, well, maybe it's not supposed to be. But we felt very strongly that we had to meet her. And it was one of the most amazing experiences of the whole journey. Absolutely.
So this is where you kind of know if you're meant to or not. It comes from within. It comes from the heart. There is this impulse, this resonance, and you know you have to do it. Like it's not from outside or from any outside reason, right?
Well, you know, we have the same struggles as you do, Lilou. I bet you know there is this mind and this idea and expectation that's you know pushing you forward, and then you know there's that feeling inside and that voice inside that sometimes don't align, and then you know sometimes you just have to sit still and just wait what comes. And you know that's what I've learned, that in those situations where there's no alignment, doesn't seem to be alignment, that you slow down rather than you know push through. So, but it doesn't mean that you can just sit still and do nothing. You know, this is some people think you can. You know. I heard somebody say the other day, you know, you have to come off that yoga mat at one stage and do something as well. Yeah. And I think, you know, this is what the film is about. You know, how can you start to learn to live that way, that your way becomes guided. Yeah.
I like the fact that you don't give answers or say this is the way to go about it, because I feel we all have unique lives, and so it puts us back the responsibility in our hands. It's an inspirational journey.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons why we left altogether is that we started to feel that, you know, we live in such a world of consumption. Not just consumption of goods, but of everything, you know. We have created a society where we very quickly looking for a fix for discomfort. Yeah, so discomfort in the sense of, you know, I don't feel well, I'll take a pill. But also, you know, everything is for sale. You know, we think we can buy happy moments. You know, we think we can buy good health, we can buy good education, we can buy maybe even faith. You know, we can buy experiences, and everything is about you know, fulfilling that quick need, fulfilling that discomfort. Whereas, you know, the real growth comes from a place of discomfort. Yeah, I mean, if you don't have discomfort, you never really grow as a person. So, if we had to make a film about this subject, how could we make a film that actually gives answers? And like I said to you before, somebody came to me yesterday and said, you know, I was completely messed up after your film. You know, I was awake all night asking me all kinds of questions, and you know, I thought about the clues in the film, but you know, I couldn't find them. So I started to ask myself about my job, about my purpose, and he started I said, wonderful. You know, so this is what the film for me is about. Like Nawatan says in the film, he said, you know, there comes a moment that you're not satisfied with the way things are, that you become a seeker. Not somebody else's truth, but your own. And it's still my favorite line in the film. Every time I feel my hairs rise from my arm when I sit in the cinema.
Actually, did you hear throughout these interviews about this feeling in the body, as you said? Because a lot of people experience that sensation of truth through their body, the goosebumps, the God bumps. They talked about that, how our body is actually this antenna too for truth and guidance. Yeah.
Well, the funny thing is that a lot of the things that you and I talk about, they don't talk about, because that's for them as a given. Very few of our interviews went actually about spirituality. That word came across very rarely. I mean, they talk about spirit, but it's not a big thing. It's there. It's there all the time. It's not something you do. We are spiritual beings, and so why talk about it? It's like the little fish who says, what was the? Sorry, I was looking for the story I heard a little while ago. He said, the fish said, how's the water? And the other fish goes like, what? Maybe it's not a good joke. Maybe I'm not good at telling jokes here.
No, I get it.
But you get it, yeah? And so for them, it's not something you do. It's not an add-on, And before I took on this journey, I must say, I often had difficulty with people who said, I'm spiritual, and I'm doing this and I'm doing that, and it's like, okay, cool, but I don't feel it. Yeah, I don't feel it with you. With the people that we've met, and that's why we call the film Down to Earth. Everything is so down to earth. This is just the way things are. Can you feel it? Well, if you can't feel it, then sit still.
Yeah. That's the ultimate thing, and we forgot to listen to that wisdom within. We're still seeking outside.
Yeah, we're trying too hard, and I think that's the real thing in our world. We're trying so hard, and everything we have to have the control, whereas it's just about letting go of the control. We try to create a plan of how we want to do things, and that comes with a set of expectations. And by doing that, we're actually doing this. Yeah. And what they teach us is actually to do this, and surrender to what is there and deal with what comes.
Yeah. Is there other lessons that you got that profoundly touched you and your family?
Yeah, there's so many, but you've gotta come and see the film. Now I can share some more things with you. Some things that were like, wow, it really made sense, because I know you come from a business background. I mean, you sold your company and you've been out there and you met all those multinational companies, and there must have been some things that were really starting to click in a deeper way than just throughout the books, obviously, when you start practicing. No, absolutely. I mean, on that level of leadership, the biggest lesson I got straight in the beginning, I was getting very frustrated as a corporate consultant that the time horizon becomes shorter and shorter for companies. A crazy system where, thinking 1 or 2 years ahead is long-term thinking, but basically everybody's worried about the next quarter, because of the stock price and the quarterly reporting that has been introduced. So basically, it's ridiculous how companies have such a short span of attention. Coming to the Native American leaders have to take decisions that are good for 7 generations ahead. That's a bit different. So I learned a lot of lessons in terms of leadership, and that's what I'm actually trying to implement, those lessons. Now I'm back in the modern world. I still work as a consultant, for very selected companies that I feel good about to support. And it's great to see the eagerness in the corporate world for a different message. I call it, wisdom-based leadership instead of knowledge-based leadership. Listening from within. And, you see that there is, the companies are just made of people like you and me. And you see a big shift there as well. On a personal level, I lost fear.
That's a big one.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not fearful for discomfortable situations. I don't even fear to die. It's like it has taken me a couple of years to realize that this is just a chapter, and everybody that we have met throughout the world, they have the same understanding about the cycle of life. There's no difference through the 14 tribes that we have visited and the shamans we have met. That this is This is our playroom. This is our, this is where we get to experience and to learn. This is what it's about.
And what a privilege and honor to be here.
Yeah, and nothing to gain, but also nothing to lose. It is actually very simple, but we have made it complicated.
Were they talking about prophecies too, or is there something going on like that are common to all these different tribes?
Yeah, I must say we have taken the word prophecy out of the film. It was in there in earlier cuts because people do talk about it. It is actually quite beautiful to see that all these tribes have certain prophecies, and they look different from the outside. But what actually is so amazing, and we talk about it in the film, is that they're all quite optimistic about the state of the world today. And they see that all the hardship, the wars, the crisis, is all a sign that there is a transformation happening. And I have no doubt about it that the world is transforming, and that friction is part of it. Yeah. And so to come back to your prophecies, there are some really clear prophecies. I mean, Nahuatl is from the Ojibwe Potawatomi tribe, and they talk about the eighth fire. And the eighth fire is where there's going to be a balance between the feminine and the masculine. Yeah, and the seventh fire is all about the masculine power, a patriarchal society. And they say there comes the eighth fire where the balance is restored, and where there's going to be a time of harmony. And it was in this last interview that we did with him where he said, I think that time has come now.
Nothing to do with the 8 billion people on Earth coming up? Because I heard that too somehow, that there's this tipping point there.
They don't talk about that. But they do talk about the fact that the change is not going to happen through the leadership in the world. The change is not going to happen through the institutions. Change is happening by the common people starting to walk their path.
Yeah. It's amazing how we feel more and more, all of us are equipped with this, like it's like we're remembering. We have that within us. It's like a blueprint inside, and we're discovering more of that. Was that part of what was happening throughout this journey? Like you felt, okay, I'm there too, or this is already here?
No, I'm glad you bring that up because, it is old memory. I'm convinced. I knew things at the age of 4 that I had forgotten. And that's beautiful to see now when you screen the film to people, that some people can't talk after the film. And they talk to you weeks later and say, thank you, I had forgotten.
And hence this emotion and all this, what people feel when watching.
Yeah, I think what people see when they watch the film, there's no dogma in the lessons that you get from these wisdom keepers. And when you screen the film to 200 people, there's 200 interpretations of this film, and I think that's the beauty of it. It's not focused on the answers. The whole idea is that it brings people back and start to ask questions about who they are.
There's only one thing that struck me or that surprised me, is that you brought up the ayahuasca part. And are you not afraid that people will take that on as part of this journey of transformation or of being in touch with our internal wisdom?
Well,
there's positive and negative things for having done interviews on this topic a bit from everywhere,
Well, what I would like to say about it is that, this was a big part. This is a big part of the tribe that we visited in the Amazon. I mean, we could leave it out. In the time that we were in America, people said you have to take it out. Drug taking in a film. How can you support that? Which was all the more reason to put it in.
Yeah. Plus you're Dutch.
Yeah, thank you. And we're actually quite green when it comes to using substances. But the thing is that, and I hope it comes across, that the way ayahuasca is used in some environments, it becomes a recreational drug. And it's the same with, actually, if you talk about marijuana, it's a medicinal plant. And you can talk about all these things. I mean, the Kiro, they use coca, and the coca plant. It's their sacred plant, but it's how do you use it? The Native Americans use tobacco. They don't smoke it, but they use it as a way to connect with the source. And so, why would we keep that out? Because of some people turning it into a recreational drug. I mean, maybe this interview helps to make that message clear that the shamans in the Amazon don't support that. They are okay if you wanted to use ayahuasca to journey, but it is a ceremony, and it's not something to just use every week on a Friday night. So that's the way they think about it. And we were offered ayahuasca in Peru several times on every street corner. We didn't do it. I wasn't going into the Amazon to do ayahuasca. We were very reluctant to take part in just any ceremony because ceremonies have power, and it can go different ways. But when we were this medicine man in the Amazon, and I hope that feeling comes through in the film, the way we have portrayed it, it felt so genuine. And he said, if you want to understand how I work and how we live, I offer you to do this ceremony with me. And again, intuition said, well, this is the place to do it.
Beautiful. Is there and this is it comes up, and I think it's beautiful that you are showing your own journey too, and the journey of your family and what you chose, and then it's a matter to have discernment in this. And sometimes we don't talk enough about that, the fact that it's up to us really to check within, and it's not just about being open-hearted and accept everything that comes along. So how did you my last question is kind of like, how did you make those decisions, of who to interview and because there's responsibility in that, and putting the movie together, and 200 hours of rushes of video, and then ultimately making it an hour something movie. Yeah. How do you make that decision? Where do you check in for that?
I think it's a bodily experience. I check in with how does it make me feel. Yeah, and if I physically feel that there is something that is not right, then I just slow down. And this is why I think we could only have made this film together. I mean, Renata is very intuitive. We are very complementary. I'm a little bit of a go-getter, and so I can rush it a little bit too far sometimes. And and then Renata would come in and say, "Hang on. I mean, is this really what we should be doing?" I mean, there's been a situation that we actually traveled for 2 weeks to get to a tribe and to meet certain people that we were supposed to meet. Our children didn't feel well, and once we got there, it didn't feel right. We felt a lot of, like my daughter of 10 said, I feel a lot of indigenous ego. And it is not that indigenous people, don't have the same problems we do. Yeah. They have the same issues. And there was a lot of ego with this chief, and I said it doesn't feel good, and Renata said, "No, we're not going to film." Yeah. And I said, "Well, that's really difficult." And she said, "We're not going to film." So we told the children, "We're not going to film," and the children were like, "How? I mean, we spent 2 weeks, and we've gone through all this. You better film now." We did not film, and I think that was actually the door that we closed. For another one that opened the next day, and or the next week. And the next week we found like an amazing person, and I think that's also how it works.
It's like it's kind of some test, or we feel tested. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. That's the word. Yes. We've been tested all along. Yeah, and also when we came back, we had 200 hours of footage. Had no idea how to make a film of it. Yeah. I mean, we had no script, we had no plan, we had no idea. We had listened to these people. We set out when we were going to do this. We set out that we were going to film from a perspective of listening, not pretending to know what the story would be, not pretending to know what even the themes would be. We didn't go with a list of questions. We would just sit down with these people and listen to what they had to say, and that's how a conversation started. And a lot of people have said, it doesn't feel like interviews in the film, but they weren't interviews. This was people sharing stories. But when we came back and we looked at the stories, we had no idea how to cut it together. And it's taken a year before we started to see a line in the material that we had in the 200 hours. And
so really, it's a co-creation, because 3 years ago it wasn't the movie that is now, and people want your story within that movie, and so that's the beautiful thing, is that we can have feedback too these days.
Yeah. Now it's enough. Yeah, I don't want any more feedback. You should have done this, but no, it's true. We have done 3 versions of the film. The whole process of making the film took 5 years. You know, we've been in and out of edit suites for 5 years. Yeah. And, worked with a fantastic composer and fantastic editors. We have had so much help of people who, coincidentally came onto our path. Yeah. That is a story in itself. We didn't know where to start. And, one day to the next, this editor came on our path and he helped us structure the thing. And then when he was done, a composer came on our path who happens to be an Oscar-winning composer, happened to be a dad at the same school where our children go to school. A lot of coincidences emerged. And I think, this is going to happen with the distribution process as well. It's going to be step by step and see what happens. We meet you now. All these people are going to hear about it, and one step at a time. Yeah,
throughout the world, this is happening. It's very well received throughout Europe already, and now France. And
yeah, I mean, we have France is the first country where we have a cinema release, so that's great. It happened because the first place where we really screened the film was at the Climate Summit, the COP 21 in Paris in December, because we felt that was the place to pre-launch the film. To make an impact. And, I feel we did, together with a lot of people initiatives. The tendency and the atmosphere and the consciousness of that gathering has changed as opposed to previous gatherings. And hence, a better outcome than expected. But now we're launching in France, but, we have the film already pre-screened in Spain. We've done 2 festivals that we won. The film's coming out in Holland soon, working in the UK. It's going to be a journey in itself to bring the message to the people.
Yeah, so there's a website where people can check where the screenings are happening, and we can kind of help this in this co-creation, right?
Absolutely. It's, you can go to the English website, which is downtoearthfilm.com, or the French website, which is gardiendeletterfilm.fr. We say dot? .fr.
Right. And so that's there, and people can organize things, I think, and ask also their own cinema or places. Here in Paris, there's that Entrepôt cinema in the center, but we can also, if we like our little own cinema next door, we can say something, right?
Absolutely. It goes in stages. The first stage is the cinema release. Everything is organized through our distributor, Jupiter Films. So on jupiterfilm.com, you can actually see the possibilities. You can contact them if you want to do screenings for your community. And that's definitely something that will happen after the film has been in cinemas. And ultimately, we would like to get this film into schools. Yeah. That's our big vision for the future. If we can get children to stay in touch, because children are born in touch. Yeah, we're all born in touch. With the bigger picture, and
they get it. Young age.
I mean, you were there at the premiere, where this young child of 7, 8 years, who had these profound questions, and it was wonderful. If we can actually get this message of the Earth Keepers to our schools, I think then we can actually prevent this generation from losing touch, as many of us have. Through our schooling and studies and growing up in the society.
Well, beautiful. I wish you amazing success with getting that message out to the world, and I definitely have faith that it will, because, when the time has come for an idea or a movie, that we're definitely guided and supported. So I have no doubt this will go all around the globe and you will inspire millions of people. Thank you.
Thank you, Lilou. It's a pleasure, and we're very happy that the voice of the Earth Keepers is being heard.
Yeah, beautiful, great job, and it's good that we all feel as part of that family, and that we all are that too. We're like ambassadors of the Earth, right?
Absolutely. We are all Earth Keepers.
Earth Keepers, beautiful. Thank you so much. Much love, my delicious co-creators. Sending you blessings from beautiful Paris. Please watch that movie. Spread the good news. Thank you. See you somewhere else around the world, I feel, soon with Renata. Bye-bye.